today to show you how to make cheese. Today we're going to make 30-minute mozzarella, and the book I like to use for home cheese making, and what many home cheese makers like to use, is this, Home Cheese Making. It's like a cheese making Bible kind of. It's by Ricky Carroll, and you can get it on cheesemaking.com and on culturesforhealth.com and probably Amazon as well. First thing that we're going to look at is our recipe. We have ingredients that are easy to acquire if you don't have them at home already. First thing we have is 1 gallon of milk. I'm using fresh milk, but the nice thing about this recipe is you can use pretty much not any milk, but a wide variety. Choose your most locally accessible dairy. Like if you go to the grocery store, choose one of the gallons of milk that comes from one of your more local dairies. It's more apt to be fresh and not ultra pasteurized. You cannot make cheese with ultra pasteurized milk, so you're going to want to stay away from the big name brand organic milks, especially because they tend to be ultra pasteurized. Ultra pasteurization breaks down the milk protein and damages it too much to accomplish cheese making. So what I have actually is fresh milk. You could use goat's milk. You could use sheep milk if you have it. Some people use buffalo milk. I don't have buffalo milk, but you can do it. Well, there's our 1 gallon of milk. And what I just did now is I dissolved citric acid, powdered citric acid, in 1/2 cup of cool water. And you'll want to use either distilled water or spring water of some kind, something that does not have chlorine. The chlorine reacts with the rennet, I believe it is. You can also use ascorbic acid. I've done that. The recipe calls for citric acid, but I have substituted ascorbic acid with identical results. These are both easy to find at, I've found it at my local health food store actually, and you can order them online from any of the cheese making websites. The other thing that we have is rennet. I'm using liquid animal rennet at this time, but you can get liquid vegetable rennet or you can get rennet tablets. Do not use junket rennet. Junket rennet does not have enough of the natural ingredient in rennet in it. It has a lot of extra additives and it's just not strong enough to properly work with the cheese. So rennet, animal or vegetable rennet, liquid or in little tablet form. We're going to be later dissolving a little bit of rennet, 1/4 of a teaspoon, in 1/4 of a cup of cool water. Now the other ingredient that might sound really obscure, but is not, most cheese recipes are going to call for cheese salt. And you're probably standing there now going, cheese salt? What is cheese salt? Cheese salt is just a flaky, non-iodized salt. It can be kosher salt, it can be sea salt, as long as it's not iodine, like doesn't have iodine in it. The iodine kills the bacteria in the milk, which you want the bacteria in your milk for cheese making because it cultures into cheese. So what I'm using here actually is just kind of a coarser grind of Celtic sea salt. It's just what I have on hand. I tend to just use sea salt because it's just not finely ground. The finely ground, it doesn't get into the curds of the cheese as well. You need the cheese to be the salt to be a little bit coarser in order to hold up longer to integrate itself into the cheese curds while you're stretching mozzarella. So that's my cheese salt. It's just, did I say? Sea salt, cheese salt, whatever it is, it works. You might have kosher salt on hand for canning. That would work as well. All right, so we're gonna get started. Our first thing is we're going to, let's see. Here it says we're stirring the citric acid solution to the milk at 55 degrees. So first, we have our thermometer in our milk. We're going to heat the milk to 55 degrees. And we're going to do this on kind of a lower, gentle heat because we don't want the milk to scorch, and we don't want it to have a smoky taste, and we don't want it to get too hot too fast. That overheating the milk can cause cheese failures. So nice and slow and easy. All right, here we are. We're at 55 degrees, and I have my I have 2 teaspoons of citric acid dissolved in a half a cup of water. I'm using 2 teaspoons because I'm using fresh milk, so I need just a little bit more acid. The recipe calls for 1.5, but there's recommendations regarding fresh milk that call for just a little bit more citric acid. Here we're going to incorporate this thoroughly. We want the citric acid to be completely integrated with the milk, or we'll have pockets of milk that don't have enough acid in it. So we're going to stir this, and we're going to start slowly heating it to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to keep the thermometer in there to keep a good eye on our temperature. We're almost up to 60. And you just, it says stir constantly, and I kind of stir constantly and I kind of don't. Sometimes I just take kind of a tiny break, but just kind of keep an eye on it and stir it probably every 20 seconds or so would be probably really where you need to be. Okay, we're at 70 degrees. It's been about 3 minutes, so a few more minutes to go. Okay, we're about 85 degrees. We've been, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes at this. And once we get up to 90 degrees, we're going to turn the heat off and move the pan over off of the burner so it's not sitting on a warm burner. And we'll be stirring in our rennet. Now what I did with the rennet is I took 1/4 of a teaspoon of the liquid rennet and 1/4 of a cup of cool unchlorinated water and mixed it together thoroughly with a little whisk. And in just a minute here, I'm going to show you how to mix the rennet into the milk. You'll notice on our spoon we've got little, like, it's not cheese, but it's because of the acid in the milk, and we're getting there. We see these little bits. It's kind of starting to become curd-like. Just a little, even without the rennet. And we're almost at 90 degrees. We're like at 89, so we're getting there. Okay, we're at the magical 90 degrees. I'm going to turn off the burner. We're going to move it over. I'm going to, for the moment, take out my thermometer and set it on my plate over here. What we're going to do is we're going to carefully pour the rennet in. If you want to come over here and get a good look. And we're going to stir it in with an up and down like we're scooping. And kind of just scoop it around. About 30 seconds to stir it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to cover it and leave it undisturbed for about 5 minutes. And I have a timer, and that's where we'll check back in 5 minutes. There's our timer, and what we're going to be doing now is checking the curd. What we're looking for is like a soft custard-like consistency. It is getting custardy. I'm not using a knife. It usually says use a big, long knife. What I don't like doing is dulling my knives on my steel pans. So I'm using an actual, icing applicator because it's sharp enough to cut curd and long enough. So we're gonna see if it does a clean break. And it does. It does do, well, it's a little too soft. And so if you can see that curd and the whey separating like that, the greenish yellowish liquid is the whey, and here we have curd, but it's just a little bit soft, so we're gonna put it for another maybe 2 minutes. We're gonna let it sit and we'll check it again. Okay, 2 more minutes have passed. We're gonna check again. You can see our whey floating on top here. Let's make a new cut so we can get a better idea. That's a little better. It's not quite as goopy. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and whatever, if you choose to use a knife, that's up to you. Whatever your cutting implement is, take it and stick it straight down. We're going to make a cut, and we're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to make 1-inch bars. Now, we're going to go the other way. kind of a noisy process, but that's okay. And now, in order to break up those long, skinny bars we've got going on in there, we're going to just kind of make a diagonal cut. And that's as good as we're going to do. I usually make an X and call it good. Now, we're going to put the pot back on the burner. We're going to heat it to 110 degrees. So I'm going to be putting the thermometer back in. Okay. And we're going to gently move the curds around with our spoon. And I guess I didn't talk much about my spoon, but it's just a standard stainless steel spoon with holes in it. We're just being really gentle because we don't want the curds to get too broken up, but we also don't want them to stay too big and get too rubbery. So as we move them around and as they get heated up, they'll release more whey. Okay, we're at 95 degrees or so, and you can see that there's even more whey coming out. And our curd is, maybe you can't see the curd releasing it, but you can definitely see that the volume of whey is increasing. And one of the things I wanted to mention is I'm heating my curds and whey to 110 degrees because I will be doing my stretching with the whey that I'll be heating it up. So the curds need to be heated up just a little bit more. There is a microwave option. I don't use it, but there is one. And if you were using the microwave option for stretching, which I will include in the printed recipe, you'd heat this to 105 degrees instead of 110. Okay, we're at 105 degrees, and I just wanted to show you what this looks like at 105. We're starting to get stretchy. And see, you need to be careful with your heat level. It needs to be kind of low. But here's what we look like at 105. Okay, we're at 110, and what we're doing is we turn the heat off, and we're going to remove it from the heat and continue to stir slowly for 2 to 5 minutes. And what will happen is, on the longer end of that, you'll get firmer cheese. On the shorter end of that, your cheese will be a little bit softer. So we're going to be stirring. I'm going to probably stir for about 3 minutes because I'm already getting kind of some firmness. So I'm going to stir for 3 minutes. Okay, we're done stirring. And now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to lift it into this, I have just a glass Pyrex bowl, metal strainer. And I'll be lifting the cheese with the spoon into the strainer. There was one little piece of it. Let's just double check. Okay, now this is going to just sit here for a minute in the strainer. There are curds. It's our cheese. And we're going to heat the whey pretty high to about 175. So Okay, right now my whey is at 140. I'm kind of intermittently stirring it. I just wanted to give you a look at, as this cheese is just sitting here waiting, look at the whey that's like coming out of it. Look in there. We got so we are like getting our, we're separating some more. And as soon as we're at 175, we're going to be dipping this big ball of cheese curd in the whey to kind of get it more melty, and we're going to be stretching it so it works like taffy. And then we'll be adding salt. Okay, we are at 171, so we're almost there. And what's going to happen next is I'm going to be taking probably a spatula and lowering the cheese into here to heat up for just about, I don't know, 20 seconds or so. And I'm going to put them in, and then we're going to be stretching, and I'll show you that process. Okay, we're coming up on our 175. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to turn the heat down just a little, just to kind of maintain temperature. And I'm going to scoop this in there. One thing they recommend if you're doing the hot whey method, which I do, is to use like heavy rubber gloves. I honestly have never done that, and it is awfully hot. So don't stuff your hand down in here, because we are talking about 175 degree liquid here. But I don't work with gloves when I'm actually stretching the whey. I just kind of like I'm gonna let this sit here for just enough time for it to get stretchy, like taffy. But you can use the heavy rubber gloves. I don't, but I just don't put your hand down in here. Cheese is a little hot when I'm touching it, but I mix my salt in. That was 1 teaspoon of the Celtic sea salt, and it feels really gritty, but as I work it in, stretching, and as it cools off, it's going to get less stretchy and more, and you know you need to heat it up again. And so that's where I'm headed next, is back into the pot of whey. I'm going to heat it again. And then this is probably for this particular cheese, sometimes you heat it 2 to 3 times. This will probably be maybe only 2 times, based on how the texture is working. Okay, I just pulled it out of the whey again. I'm going to stretch. It is hot. Woo! Stretching mozzarella, it's fun. As you stretch, you're pulling liquid out, and I'm still feeling a little bit of the salt, so we'll see. I might need to put this in the pot one more time after all. Yep. Put this all together in the pot one more time. Out they come. We have stretchy strings of yummy mozzarella. Here we go to burn our hands some more. Okay. Stretch. And I think we're done. Stretch. Yep. You're done. I'm going to form this into a... For me, what I'm going to be doing with my mozzarella this time is forming it into like string cheese kind of deal. But normally what you could do is you could put it just in a regular ball, or make it into little balls for snacking or salads. And you plunge it immediately into ice water, like a bowl full of water with ice cubes and everything, and leave it there for about 15 to 20 minutes because it needs to cool its core off without getting... The core is really warm. Turn my burner off. What I am going to do is, I do need to cool this off, so I'm going to get my bowl of ice water, but I'm making it more into a kind of a loafy type thing, so it can be cut more easily into like cheese sticks. First I'm going to cool it off. Okay, my cheese is pretty much, it's pretty cool. I'm going to pat it dry with a paper towel. And if you formed it into a ball, it will need a little bit longer than I had. And if you're just forming it into a ball, once you take it out, pat it dry, wrap it in some plastic wrap, or if you don't want to use plastic, I'm not sure, I haven't decided what I would use instead of plastic yet. And put it in the refrigerator. It'll keep for about a week, and I don't think you should keep it that long. I think you should eat it as soon as possible. For me, I have my little kind of firm, flat piece of mozzarella, and all I'm going to do for string cheese is I'm just going to cut it into pieces like this. And I'll be individually wrapping them in plastic wrap so that they're easy and they don't stick together then in the refrigerator. In the meantime, my cheese assistant, my filming assistant in here, we're going to try a yummy piece of cheese. Excellent. It's your turn next. Now I have my glass of milk, and here you go. We turned this into this, and it's yummy either way, but these are really delicious results. See you next time for another episode of Wine, Beer, and Cheese, and next time I see you, it'll probably be with another type of cheese. Have fun!